Hi guys. So our first day of theater, we are going to start with the literary elements of theater. So these should all be very familiar to you because they are literature elements. So when we think about theater, it always starts with just the written word of the play. Okay, so all of these literary elements are what you've been learning about in English class your entire school career. So they start with Friedrichs Pyramid. So this pyramid, it basically takes you through the plot of an entire story. So any story is going to follow this pyramid more or less. So like a play, a movie, music videos, books, short stories, everything kind of follows this line. So you start with the exposition. That's like the beginning intro. You're kind of getting to know your characters, you know, their names, what they look like, and then something happens. That's the initial incident right here. So that initial incident is like your attention grabber. Like you kind of know who these people are, but like it's just kind of background noise, and all of a sudden something happens. There is an action that happens to change the story. And then we have rising action. So we have suspense is building. We don't know what the resolution is going to be. We don't know how our characters are going to solve this problem, whatever. And then we reach the climax, which is the turning point in the drama. So we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to, and then something happens. Okay, so the climax is the big building point. It's what you've been waiting for. And then we have the falling action on the way down, which is where they're attempting to react to that climax or solve the problem that the climax gave. And then we reach a resolution down here at the bottom of our pyramid, and then our rest is just kind of like an epilogue, like wrapping up loose ends, explaining anything, getting your happily ever after. So most stories are going to follow this type of pyramid. Sometimes you may have like a double climax where you go up, go down a little bit, you think you're solving it, and then something else happens. That is also possible. So why do these elements have familiar names? Because you have been learning about them in literature since you started reading books. Okay, so these are the same elements of literature. Theater and drama tell stories with the same format as written stories. They still follow those parts. Oh my gosh, my eyes are dry, y'all. Okay, so the exposition. This is the introduction of main characters and setting, time, and place. This is where you know who you are, or who the characters are, where they are, and when they are. So, like in the beginning of a story, you're going to know, oh, is this a historical drama from 1837 Georgia, or is this a future piece with like dystopian Hunger Games reality? This is where they introduce the main setting. Characters start to build relationships, and then there is an initial incident that starts the conflict. Our rising action is where characters make decisions regarding that initial incident, and suspense is building. We're on our way up our pyramid, and the action becomes more and more complicated. Then the climax. This is the peak. This is the point of highest emotion. When you're watching a movie, this is where you're like, oh. It's the turning point where characters make decisions about what's been happening. Then we have the falling action, which is we are attempting to resolve that main turning point. So we've reached the climax, and now the falling action is when they're trying to react to it, trying to get everything back together. And then our denouement, this is a French word, which means final resolution. All of the problems of the rising action and climax are solved. And then the conclusion is the end of the story. Depending on the genre, it's either usually a death or a happy ending, like a marriage. Okay, almost everything ends with that. So suspense. What is suspense? I said our rising action is when suspense is building. So suspense is being undecided, uncertain, or doubtful. It's when you have a state of tension. It's like you're uncertain about what's going to happen. You don't know who the killer is. You don't know who's going to get married. You don't know who's really your best friend or not. All of that is suspense. And you have to have suspense in order to sustain interest, right? If you automatically start watching something or reading something and you can already know exactly what's going to happen, it's not interesting, right? You don't want to watch it. The theme. So this is the underlying meaning of the story. It is, when we talk about literature, it is a universal truth. So themes could be like, love conquers all, money is the root of all evil, things that are true regardless of culture and circumstance. So it's normally a statement that the story is making about society. So a lot of times I keep thinking of like Hunger Games. It's like power corrupts. So all those people in the Capitol, they're corrupt because they've had this great life. Human nature or the human condition. Language and style. So these are the way words are put together to define the character. So for instance, if a dialogue is written, so like the character's words are written with misspelled words or incorrect grammar or in a specific dialect, that helps give authenticity to the character. So someone who is like playing me, for instance, may speak differently and write the words differently than somebody who lives in Britain. Monologue. So mono means one. So this is a lengthy speech by one character who is revealing his or her thoughts. So it's usually delivered to an audience or to another character who's listening. So it's not dialogue because there's no back and forth. So this is just when someone delivers speech that is lengthy without being interrupted. Oops. And then dialogue is when there's a back and forth between two or more characters on stage. A soliloquy is a type of monologue given by a character who's alone on stage. And when they deliver these speeches, they deliver their innermost thoughts and feelings. So it's almost like, you know, in some of those movies where someone will look directly at the camera and none of the other characters around them can hear what they're saying. That's a soliloquy. So it's not meant for the other characters to acknowledge or hear what they're saying. All right, so the theater viewing guide, you have this box on another sheet of paper, or on another assignment, and what you're going to do is pick one of the clips that I've given you and try and plot out the story of what's happening. So from the clip, see if you can figure out what the exposition is, what that initial incident or confluence is, what's the rising action, what's the climax, what's the falling action, and what's the resolution. All right, hopefully this is pretty easy because you've been talking about these terms in your English class forever. Good luck.